Congressman Ted Lieu slams the table, eyes locked on Attorney General Pam Bondi, his voice slicing through the usual political niceties. Where is that client list? Instantly, the tension is electric, cameras flash, and the audience feels the weight of decades-old secrets hanging in the air. Every pause, every glance, every subtle shift in Bondi's expression tells a story that words alone can't capture. This isn't just a hearing, it's a dramatic confrontation that threatens to expose hidden networks, unseen names, and truths that powerful people have fought to keep buried. Stay with us, because what's about to unfold could rewrite what you thought you knew about the Epstein saga. And every reaction, hesitation, and statement could be a clue in a story the world is desperate to understand.
Thank you, Chairman Aguilar. Donald Trump, when he campaigned, promised on day one he would end inflation and lower costs. Donald Trump lied to the American people because we now know that inflation has continued to increase under his policies and that of Republicans. The most recent inflation report shows that inflation increased to 2.7% above expectations, and core CPI increased to 2.9%. We call on Trump and Republicans to focus on lowering costs instead of things like the big ugly bill that are kicking millions of people off health care. I've also noticed that there's been an uptick in activity around the Epstein files recently. I just want to remind the American people that in February of this year, Attorney General Pam Bondi acknowledged the existence of Jeffrey Epstein's client list. In fact, she said that Jeffrey Epstein's client list is, quote, sitting on my desk right now. Where is that client list? What is Attorney General Pam Bondi hiding? She needs to release the Epstein files as soon as possible. I talked about the Epstein files under the Biden administration. I'm talking about it under the Trump administration. This is a case of the powerful protecting the powerful. We need to have those files released. I also note that the Epstein files that have already been released show that Trump is all over the files. He's in multiple pictures with Jeffrey Epstein. There's multiple videos of Trump with Jeffrey Epstein. There are plane logs of Trump on Epstein's plane. There are statements by Trump about Epstein. There are court pleadings of alleged victims of Epstein naming Trump. So we need to have these Epstein files released. I also want to talk a little bit about Ukraine. The only way we get Vladimir Putin to the negotiating table is to defeat Russian troops on the battlefield. I support President Trump's decision to send Patriot missiles to Ukraine. I support President Trump's decision to say that he's going to backfill Europe's military equipment when Europe sends military equipment to Ukraine. And that is how we're going to get Putin to the negotiating table, by letting Putin know that he cannot win this war. And with that, I yield back.
The hearing erupts with an electric tension as Congressman Ted Lieu leans forward, voice sharp and unwavering, slamming his hand on the table and demanding, "Where is that client list?" The room reacts instantly. Journalists lean in, aides exchange nervous glances, and cameras capture the subtle shifts in every expression. Attorney General Pam Bondi sits composed, yet her tightly pressed lips, micro adjustments in posture, and brief, almost imperceptible eye movements hint at the internal calculus she is performing under the glaring scrutiny. From the very first question, the atmosphere signals that this is no ordinary exchange. Decades-old secrets are teetering on the edge of revelation, and every word, pause, and glance could carry monumental consequences, both politically and historically. The energy is palpable, drawing viewers into a world where power, secrecy, and accountability collide. And the audience can sense that what happens here will ripple far beyond the walls of the chamber. As Liu continues his relentless questioning, the dynamics of human instinct under pressure become the focal point. Every hesitation, every carefully crafted response, and every subtle facial cue becomes a story in itself, revealing layers of character, strategy, and judgment. Bondi's answers are precise, measured, and deliberately paced, yet even in their control, analysts and viewers can detect microsignals, tiny shifts that suggest the weight of decades of institutional secrecy pressing down. The tension is compounded by the knowledge that the Epstein files contain hidden networks, sensitive information, and potential ramifications that go beyond simple procedural compliance. Each interaction is a study in psychological warfare, a demonstration of how authority, persistence, and scrutiny can intersect to produce a drama far richer than any scripted narrative. Midway through the hearing, the stakes intensify as Lieu's probing questions begin to expose the broader implications of transparency, power, and public trust. The audience can almost feel the room constrict as each clarification is demanded, revealing the fragility of carefully constructed defenses. Observers note the interplay of expressions, the subtle flickers of doubt, the micro moments of instinctive recalibration, and the almost imperceptible signs of tension that betray the human element behind institutional facades. The suspense is relentless, drawing viewers into a narrative that is both analytical and emotional, blending the mechanics of legal scrutiny with the human drama of accountability, ethical responsibility, and strategic decision-making under extreme pressure. As the exchange progresses, the narrative deepens into a cinematic tableau where every gesture, glance, and verbal inflection carries meaning. Lieu's persistence uncovers not just procedural details but the psychological and ethical landscape of those in positions of power, illustrating how public figures balance loyalty, discretion, and the imperative for transparency. The audience witnesses a complex choreography, Bondi's subtle calculations against Lieu's incisive insistence, the room's shifting energy, and the unspoken awareness of historical significance that hangs over every statement. It is an intense interplay of perception, persuasion, and moral consideration, offering viewers a rare glimpse into the intricate mechanics of governance, accountability, and human instinct under relentless scrutiny. By the conclusion, the room is thick with unresolved tension, leaving the audience both informed and provoked. The hearing illuminates more than just the whereabouts of a client list. It reveals character, human instinct, and the fragility and resilience inherent in positions of power. Viewers are invited to reflect on broader questions of justice, ethics, and transparency, realizing that accountability is a constant negotiation and that even highly rehearsed defenses can falter under relentless questioning. The narrative lingers beyond the final words, compelling engagement, discussion, and reflection, reminding everyone that the pursuit of truth, particularly in the corridors of power, is rarely straightforward, but always necessary, and that each revelation, hesitation, and response contributes to a story that is both historically significant and emotionally compelling.